So it's pretty fascinating to sit here and listen to this debate, dialogue, discussion, haggle between Atheist Antidote and Tooltime. The larger issue that would need to be addressed is how much of all of this, the discussion, the haggle, the posturing of attitude, the concern over identity, the fear over being right or being wrong, the motivation to have the debate in itself. It's about death. It's about the fear of death and what the ultimate meaning of life is if we are just animals who die like all the other animals do. I've seen Tooltime before suggest that it may be possible for there to be some sort of personal afterlife. No, I agree that there may be, but there may not be at all. Part of the task in creating a robust criticism of Christianity is to suggest that it is a kind of cult of death denial. And what we need is an atheism that recognizes itself as a theology. Would be part of my position here. That there's no way out of a theological position. To be a human is to be caught with some sort of theology that is, atheism is the belief that there is no God. Now, if you say, I don't even have any beliefs about the divine at all, I'm not an agnostic, I'm not a theist, I'm not an atheist. If you say I'm none of those, I don't know, I mean, maybe an animal could be a true non-believer, but even atheists believe there's not a God. Now you might say, well, no, I'm just an agnostic, I refrain from all belief. Okay, it could be good. I don't know if that itself, though, isn't a kind of, again, a theological position, that this is the way that the person is helping to give context to what they're calling the meaning that is their life. I think some people think that so much of what they do takes on a significance because they can imagine it having a greater significance than just to them or just to their immediate life or their immediate world. They want to believe that their own memories are more than what's going to just disappear with their own death. There are many Christians who seem to believe that life is only valuable because it's, I guess, given by God. It's somehow outside of nature. It's some sort of trans-empirical soul that, and that's why, you don't kill yourself in the Christian tradition because suicide is a violation of this soul. I think that that's all just so odd. It's really unfortunate. I think there are, many reasons why someone would say suicide is a bad plan, but it has to do with the beauty of the world. Oh, shoot. I mean, I think the really hard problems here are, to what extent can life itself be valued without making an appeal to some dogmatic life in an absolute sense? Can people have a right to die? Can a person who is in a horrible state of affairs find meaning in their life by saying, I don't want to end this way, I don't want to die this way? I think there is a certain right there that needs to be recognized. I think part of the problem is that when we think about atheism, theism, it's that Christianity, I think, is part of it's the smugness of Christianity, the smugness of a personal afterlife and a personal relationship with God. See, to a certain degree, Christianity is almost radically anti-Buddhism. I mean, I agree with Tooltime's suggestion that the Buddha may have said as much or more than Jesus had. I mean, why wasn't Jesus out there carrying signs of protest against public executions and torture? It's difficult for many people to understand why the universe is here, and I think part of the difficulty with Tooltime's suggestion, especially with this issue of wonder, is there are many people who feel that the scientist is no longer in wonder. And I think the Christian feels like they still have a sense of wonder. And I do. I see what Tooltime's saying. It's almost baffling. And yet there's another sense in which I do think there's something right-minded about what he was perhaps saying, and it wasn't expressed very well. I think what he was trying to say was, when Copernicus made his discovery, the discovery that the Earth was not the center, but that the sun was the center, it deflated human importance in some way, but it also radically elevated the human sense of prerogative to know, and it sort of congratulated us and patted us on the back for having made that discovery. So there was a kind of elevation of the human. I think part of the larger problem is, what is the larger relationship to the world? And this in science itself is highly disputed. See, this is what's so interesting, is that the scientists seem to be, I guess, radically suggesting that the Earth is fragile and vulnerable and that we need to really take care of it. And I think that is very clear. But there seems to be so much of a science of technology and improvement and progress that's absolutely antithetical to all the science that is suggesting that we need to be more ecologically sound. And these two different kinds of science are contesting through capitalist platforms. So it's not just death denial that each individual is struggling with. I think there are larger socio-political forces that are also at play here. The number of Christians who are not vegetarians, as another example. But the need for a personal God, I think that's really part of the problem. And to that extent, Buddhism is radically different than Christianity, in that Buddhism says get rid of the ego, and I think there are strains of Christianity under which this is how it's interpreted. This is sort of the Joseph Campbell, joyfully participate in the sorrows of humanity myth. But I think you would find that many people dogmatically just read the Christ message as a message of personal salvation. And in that sense, it's building up of the ego to such a degree that now the person believes that there is some kind of personal salvation and personal life after death. And that's the only way that life has a meaning or a significance. Too many people need to think about music. Music, like dance, you enjoy the music and the unfolding, but you're not trying to get to the end of the song. It has purpose and it has harmony and beauty all the way along. It's not to be discovered at the end. If anything, the end gives an orientation and a purpose, and it makes it limited, and that gives it value, but it's not to be found at the end. It's just that ends have a way of giving value. It may be that the cosmos itself needed to create little pockets of finitude in order to generate meaning for itself. I think there is a mystery that the atheist antidote, however feebly, is trying to address. And to me, the fully atheistic position is a theological position. I mean, I think that itself is comical. I don't think there's any way out of some struggle with the problems of ultimate origins and ultimate purpose and ultimate ends. I really got to say, it was a great video from Tooltime, and I enjoyed it. Thanks.